Right now, literally at this very moment as you're going about your day, you are actively using words the Vikings left behind. Words like sky, egg, knife, window, husband, happy. You might think of the Vikings as just ancient history, raiders in longships from over a millennium ago, but the truth is, their history is hiding right there in your mouth.
Well, think about this. Approximately 1,000 everyday English words come directly from Old Norse. 1,000! No way, right? But it's true. This isn't just a handful of obscure, dusty historical terms. This is the very foundation of how we describe our mornings, our emotions, and our homes. It is literally the wallpaper of your daily routine.
So welcome to the grand series finale of our explainer. Today, we are pulling the invisible string that connects 1,200-year-old history directly to you. As you'll see, we're going to explore how the Vikings didn't just raid and leave. They wove themselves into the very fabric of our modern world.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. The words you speak. 2. Maps of the North. 3. The Norman connection. 4. Savages or complex humans. And we'll wrap it all up with 5. The grand final quiz. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the words you speak. 1,200 years old and still in your mouth. Because generations of Norse and English folks actually lived side by side in the area known as the Danelaw, their languages naturally just blended. People mixed, and so their words mixed. Just look at these literal translations. Take the word window. It comes from the Old Norse vinduga, which literally translates to wind eye. I mean, isn't that a beautifully poetic image? A hole in the wall acting as an eye to the wind? And husband comes from husbandi, meaning house dweller. Every single time you use these words, you are breathing life into a 1,200-year-old Norse legacy.
Moving right along to Section 2, Maps of the North, how the landscape still speaks Norse.
You know when you're driving around and you see a road sign ending in by, like Darby or Whitby? Well, you are actually looking at the Old Norse word for village or settlement. See, thorpe in Scunthorpe? That's an outlying settlement. A thwaite is a woodland clearing, and a dale is a valley. These aren't just random letters. They are fossilized geographical receipts of Norse farming and settlement, hiding right in plain sight.
That brings us to Section 3, the Norman connection, the surprising plot twist of 1066.
Okay, so look at this timeline. The absolutely crucial point here is that in 911 AD, a Norse chieftain named Rollo received land in France. This became Normandy, literally the land of the Northmen. Sure, they learned French and adopted local culture. But fast forward to 1066, and those Normans who conquered England at the Battle of Hastings, they were actually the descendants of Norse settlers. It means 1066 wasn't some sudden out-of-the-blue event. Actually, scratch that. It was just the final chapter in a 270-year Viking story that kicked off with the raid on Lindisfarne.
Section 4, Savages or complex humans. Time to answer the ultimate enquiry of this whole series.
Look, we absolutely have to acknowledge the very real, very horrific suffering they caused. They conducted brutal raids like the devastating attack on Lindisfarne. That violence was entirely real. But we have to balance the ledger here. They also built thriving, magnificent cities like Jorvik. They were master navigators who explored the Atlantic and hit America 5 centuries before Columbus. They established these complex democratic legal assemblies known as the Thing. They crafted extraordinary art and even granted advanced rights to women long before a lot of others did.
There's a quote here that really hits the nail on the head. The question assumes savage and civilized are opposites. History shows they are not. They were human. And that is the honest truth about complex peoples. They are capable of inflicting extreme violence, but also of building incredible civilizations. They weren't purely heroes, and they weren't purely monsters. They were just deeply, fascinatingly human.
And now, Section 5, the grand final quiz. Let's test your knowledge. We're shifting into high-energy mode right now to see exactly how much you've retained from this epic journey. I'll read the question, give you a few seconds to lock in your guess, and then reveal the answer. Ready? Here we go.
Question 1. Name 3 everyday English words that come from Old Norse. Think about it.
And the answer is sky, egg, and window. Remember, window is that brilliant wind-eye translation we talked about earlier. And hey, if you guessed husband, knife, happy, or ugly, those totally count too. These are just a tiny fraction of the nearly 1,000 Old Norse words we still use daily. Great job if you got that.
Okay, question 2. Let's look at the map. What do place names ending in by tell us? Lock it in.
The answer is there from the Old Norse word for village or settlement. Locations like Derby, Whitby, and Grimsby aren't just names. They're permanent geographical receipts. They are literal fossilized markers of Viking life and farming that you can still drive through today.
Moving on to question 3, let's test your political history. What is the surprising connection between the Vikings and the Norman conquest of 1066? Connect the dots.
The answer: the Normans who conquered England were actually of Norse origin. They had settled in France in 911 AD under their leader Rollo. This brilliantly illustrates how that invisible string pulls all the way from the early Viking raids straight to the ruling dynasty of England. 1066 was really just another Norse chapter.
Question 4. Getting a bit philosophical here. What is our series answer to the overarching enquiry question? Were the Vikings really brutal savages? Take a second.
The answer is, they were complex human beings. It's the nuanced truth. The history of the Viking Age just cannot be painted with a single brush. They were real raiders who caused immense suffering, for sure, but they were also master builders, brave explorers, and incredible creators. They were not purely saints and not purely savages.
And finally, question 5. Bring the whole narrative together for me here. Name 2 lasting legacies of the Viking Age visible in Britain today. Lock in your final guess.
And the final answer is our language and our landscape. Over 1,000 Old Norse words embedded in everyday English and thousands of Norse place names scattered all across the map of northern and eastern England. If you got all 5 right, take a bow. You have successfully conquered this explainer.
From the Lindisfarne raid to the Battle of Hastings, it's 270 years of complex, deeply human history, preserved right now in the words you speak, the places you live, and the days of the week. I want to warmly thank you for joining us on this incredible journey to uncover the Viking legacy. But before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. If the words you used to describe the sky outside and the windows in your home were shaped by Norsemen 1,200 years ago, what other invisible historical strings are pulling on your daily life right now, just waiting to be discovered? Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.